Hello everyone, this is Andrew Meadows, and you are listening to Alien Movement, the podcast. Welcome to the movement. Before we get started, I just want to go over a couple of things. The website is www-alienmovement.org. You can find us on Twitter at alienmovement1, the number 1, Facebook at alienmovement.org, Spreaker, you're probably listening right now on Spreaker or Alien Movement. I have a page set up for sponsors called Patreon, patreon.com. If you want to go in and sponsor the show, that would be wonderful. I set up a Tumblr account. It's alienmovement.tumblr.com. And I also have a YouTube channel. Just search Alien Movement. You can sort by channel and we'll come up. If you have any trouble finding us on YouTube, you can search by episode. So like, for example, tonight's episode is Alien Movement-Deathbed Confessions. So you can search that. It'll definitely come up that way. So welcome. Glad to be back after Monday's show. A lot of activity has been going on Facebook and Twitter. More listeners on YouTube. A lot of likes on Facebook, people writing me. And a lot of people also on Twitter. So I'm really excited about it. I think that there are so many passionate people out there that care about this topic that if you get someone who is passionate about it too, that they'll want to listen. So I'm excited about that, and I thank you all for your support. If you want to tell your friends about the show, like me, share me, that would be great. I thought of the other question. If you listened to a couple of episodes ago, I spoke to a friend who's a skeptic, but who's interested in the topic, and he asked me 3 questions. The one was, if they're so sophisticated and can fly through interstellar space, why do they get here and crash? And I explained my explanation. I compared it to us back in the day, Christopher Columbus or those guys sailing across the Atlantic Ocean. No problem. They have the technology. They have the ability. They sail right across the Atlantic Ocean. They get to the New World. They hit a reef and they crash. So, maybe the aliens miscalculated our gravity or the thickness or density of our atmosphere. So that was one of the questions, and I'm keeping this short because that was from a previous show. And then there was another question, which now I can't remember, but that one I also already talked about. But the one I couldn't remember before was, and this is a very good question. He said, well, if the government already knows about aliens and they already have UFOs in their possession, then why would they be funding SETI, the search for extraterrestrial intelligence? Why would they be doing that? That's a wonderful question, and all of you listening may come across that question. Here's the deal. Funding SETI does not mean they don't know about UFOs or aliens. It means they're searching for more. If you went to explore an island, if you were going to search for, I use the Galapagos Islands as an example. So you get there and you find this weird-looking lizard. Are you just going to look at that lizard, autopsy that lizard, or dissect that lizard and then go home? No, you're going to keep exploring. You're going to look for as many possible species of plant and animal as you can find. You're going to just keep going. So SETI is a search for new extraterrestrial intelligence, not original. I'm floundering here. We already know about aliens. The government has already met with aliens. They have UFOs in their possession. They already know about them. But they continue to search. Maybe it's been a positive experience for the government and the military. Maybe they've gotten a lot of technology out of it and they're looking for more. So that is a great question, but that does not at all disprove that we already know about aliens? So that was the other question from the other night that I couldn't remember, and I thought of it today, and I wanted to just share that with you. So tonight's topic is Deathbed Confessions. And the truth is, I could do 10 shows on this, because there are so many that, I just had to pick a few to talk about tonight. But there are so many from the actual individual, from the children of the individuals that said, when my dad got older, he got sick before he died, this is what he told me. There are many of those from Roswell, and they're all over the place. So I just chose some to talk about tonight. But again, there are so many deathbed confessions that we could do a whole 10 episodes about it. So I'm going to start with one that came from Roswell. It's a long article, so I'm going to kind of start in the middle. We all know what happened at Roswell. And so about halfway through the article, it gets to the point, which is what I was looking for, that if you remember, when I talked about Roswell before, I said that the public relations officer, Lieutenant William Haught, Lieutenant Walter Haught, H-A-U-T, he was the one that took the press release to the two newspapers in town and the two radio stations in town that said the military has recovered a flying saucer. So he was a public relations officer at the base in 1947. And he was I'm reading this now, he was the man who issued the original and subsequent press releases after the crash on the orders of the base commander. When Haught died, Lieutenant Walter Haught, when he died recently, he left a sworn affidavit to be opened only after his death. So he passed away, and the text was released, and in the sworn affidavit, he says that the weather balloon was a cover story, and that the real object that was recovered by the military and stored in a hangar was an alien craft and had alien bodies. So this is his sworn affidavit, opened right after his death. Weather balloon was a cover story, and that it was actually a flying saucer, and there were alien bodies recovered. And let me see. Let's see. Haught's affidavit talks about a high-level meeting he attended with Base Commander Colonel William Blanchard and the commander of the 8th Army Air Force, General Roger Ramey. Haught states at this meeting, pieces of wreckage were handed around for participants to touch, with nobody able to identify the material. And he said the press release was issued because the locals were aware of the crash, and they needed to address it. So the locals were aware. They released the press release saying that they had recovered a flying disc, and then, as you know, later that day, that evening, they came back and said it wasn't a flying saucer, it was a weather balloon. So this is another one I said in a previous show. If I was in the military, and I'd say to them, listen, I'll follow orders, but you got to give me something better than this. So Lieutenant Haught, also in the affidavit, says that Colonel Blanchard took him to Building 84, which was one of the hangars at Roswell, and showed him the craft. He describes it as a metallic object around 12 to 15 feet in length. It had no windows, wings, tail, landing gear, or any other feature. He saw two bodies on the floor. He described in this statement as about 4 feet tall with disproportionately large heads. Towards the end of the affidavit, he concludes, I am convinced that what I personally observed was some kind of craft and its crew from outer space. So this article goes on, but he was sworn to secrecy, and he kept his for life. He kept his secrecy word for life. But as soon as he died, the affidavit was released. So that's the first one. Now let me go to another one. You've probably heard of Boyd Bushman. He was a Lockheed Martin engineer, and he came out when he was very old. If you ever saw the video, he was very old. He died just months after this video was released. And I will admit, he seems extremely old and frail in the video, but he was still an engineer at Lockheed Martin. And he came out and did this video and talked about alien bodies. Let me see. He was 78, I guess. He was 78 years old. And they called him the Area 51 scientist. But he made claims of working on projects involving anti-gravity, UFOs, aliens, Area 51, Roswell, New Mexico. And he said that government officials had been in contact with aliens who strongly resemble humans, tend to be approximately 4.5 to 5 feet tall, have 3 backbones, which I think is interesting, and that the backbones are actually made of cartilage, and that they're able to communicate telepathically. I know some of this sounds possibly unbelievable, but remember what I've talked about it's not just a numbers game, but it's a time game. So, we went from the Wright brothers flying in, was it 1903, to landing on the moon in 1969. So in 66 years, we went from that first flight to the moon. So what about a civilization that's not thousands of years old, but is 200,000 years old or 1 million years old? Would they evolve to communicate telepathically? Very likely. Their bodies would get smaller because with technology they wouldn't need to be as big and strong. They certainly wouldn't need to hunt to survive. And it would make sense for the head to get larger, for their intelligence to increase, and to communicate telepathically. Bushman said, again, this is an engineer from Lockheed Martin. He described 2 types of aliens, some of who live for 200 years, and I'm presuming that is Earth years. And let's see what else. Anyway, so this Boyd Bushman, this is another video that everyone is aware of, and he swore that the aliens were real, that we were in possession of alien technology, and that he worked on this technology, including anti-gravity and other things like that. All right, I'm going to move on. This article is too split up. So here's another one from a government chief, deathbed confession, that he was shown inside an alien UFO at Area 51. Now, you've probably heard about the former Canadian Minister of Defense, Paul Hellyer. This is a deathbed confession that was given by this other person to Paul Hellyer. So let me go through it. So Paul Hellyer is the guy that testified in front of Congress about the existence of aliens and UFOs. And if you remember when I talked about the Rendlesham Force incident, and I said this guy is legit. He was an admiral. His title was Lord. He's legit. And, well, this guy, Paul Hellyer, is legit too. So he was former Canadian Minister of Defense, meaning placed in a significant place of trust for the entire country